Hello everyone, it's Jennifer and thank you for joining me today. As promised, I am going to be making a couple of bracelets using some of the Labradorite gemstones from the Beads of the Month Club for the month of May. I didn't get these squeezed in back in May and I wanted to be able to do at least a couple of projects using these amazing gemstones. They are absolutely gorgeous and stunning. And so we are going to be using the large hole. So that is the 8mm, there's 12 in here, rounds. And then we're also going to be using some of the 6mm rounds. Okay, so how this is the identification card that you get with your order. And so this one here has a 4. So then 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 6mm round. And then this one here has a 1, and it is the 8mm. Sometimes you'll see them labeled a little bit differently where it might say 710. And so then that will tell you that it is 7x10. And sometimes they'll have different identifiers also included in the card. And so again, this is part of the Beads of the Month Club. They have several options. They have fire polish, which I've been sharing and that I absolutely love. Then they also have the gemstone, which I absolutely love. But then they also have seed beads. They have hot trends. There's rotating clubs that you can belong to, as well as the companion findings pack. I'm not going to be using anything from the companion findings pack for these two projects, but I will also include the May unboxing for these two Beads of the Month Club sets that I did get. What I am going to be using is with the large hole beads, I'm going to be using some leather. This is 1.5mm leather, and I got this from a company that is in the next town. They live in Modesto, and I just thought that that looked really good with that. You're gonna see barrel knot tube. Yes, I'm gonna do some barrel knots. Thank you, Kellie Sutton from Kellie's Bead Boutique, for showing all of us how to make barrel knots. Then I'm going to, so that's gonna be for this one. This one's just gonna be barrel knots and that. And I might bring in a different clasp, but we'll just see how things kind of go. And I might need to bring in a button. Again, we'll just see how things go. I'm going to be using some Indian leather, and this one here is probably 1mm because it's a little bit thinner than this one here. But I guess I should have checked to see that it would make it through here. Let's just see. Well, actually, you know what? I'm only using that for the clasp. So what we're going to be using is we're going to be using some bone color Softflex wire in medium. And I'm almost out of this one. I got this in the Serenity Trio. So if you're new to Softflex company as well, you can, they have different trios, different colors that you can buy so that you can get a pack of multiple colors rather than just getting one. And these are in 10-foot spools, and they have 10-foot, they have 30, they have, let's see what else, they have 30. They also have, I believe I have 100-foot spool somewhere around here too. So there's different sizes that they have to offer. So be sure to check those out, as well as the medium is a 49 strand. They have a fine, a very fine, and they also have a heavy, and I haven't used the heavy yet, and I want to use a heavy for like a bangle type bracelet. So we'll get there. Also on the mat, I have some of Softflex amazing 2x2 crimp tubes. Now they have gold filled, they have silver, I think there's a copper and maybe a gunmetal too, but the gold is what's gonna go best with this here. And I'll show you how we're gonna use their magical crimpers. Let me grab them real quick. These are the magical crimpers that you can use with 2x2 crimp tubes. Different from standard crimping tools, these only have one well. So there's only one. There's only one area to put the crimp tube in, and we'll go over how you do that. What is different from this one as opposed to the standard crimping? The standard crimping has 2 wells, and the first well is to kind of turn it into like a crescent moon or a taco, and then there's another notch up at top to flatten it out or to round it off, so that you're basically separating the wires and then crimping it off and holding it together, which is great. And I love using that. It's very easy to use. This here, it gets a little tricky because you need to be in a specific spot in your crimper tool with the crimp, with the 2x2 crimp tube. And but again, once you start using it, you get used to it. And what this does is this gives you more like a bead finish, like a bead-like finish, and it's really good. So I want to show that off. I'm also going to be bringing in some tiara casts. So I have some tiara cast spacers that have little notches on them. I also have a hammered ring, also from Tiara Cast, and then a Tiara Cast smaller button. And then I'm bringing in some of my stash. These are wire guards, and these are in the antique brass as well. When using wire up against the metal, you can do that and it's perfectly fine. And this wire is great. However, though, I don't know if I give this away to somebody, I don't know how they're going to wear it, or how much abuse they put on their bracelets. I know what I do, and I know that I can just go ahead and wrap directly onto the metal. And also to not knowing whom I give this to, as far as how they're going to wear it, I just want to be safe. So I try to err on the side of caution. So with that said, since the bulk of the materials are for this bracelet here, we're going to go ahead and push that off to the side for now. And I got these tiara cast from Kellie at Kellie's Bead Boutique. My Etsy shop now, I do carry tiara cast, so I have a wide range of tiara cast products in my Etsy shop, and I'll put a link to my Etsy shop in the description, as well as the links to the Adornable Elements for the Beads of the Month. Also too, with Beads of the Month Club, use Bella10, and that will give you 10% off of your first month subscription. And so fun. I had a viewer, a subscriber, just email me or message me or comment that they had used my coupon code for their first month's subscription. So I'm glad that people are using it and able to be getting this amazing bead assortment. Okay. So, and I have to tell you, their customer service is incredible, just incredible. I do love working with them. All right, so what I want to do is I also want I love this wire. I love the color, and I want to show it off. I don't want to just string it up and have it sit underneath all the beads and nothing to show for it. We are going to go ahead and we are going to make this a double strand. And then what we're going to do is we'll put 2 strands through the spacers, and then we'll do 1 strand through the bead so that we have 1 strand exposed. And I love exposed, the exposed look. So I don't know how much I'm going to need. I'm so bad at determining, so I always do way too much. But there's about 18 inches here. We have to double up, and then we're going to be doing a little bit over here. So I'm going to go about 20 inches. Okay, I'm going to go 20 inches, and then we'll take a look at the scraps that I have afterwards to see. Okay, so we're going to use 20 inches of that. Let me go ahead and get my little beads out here. And this was a single, they have single and double options for your subscriptions. And so this was a single, and you still get quite a bit. Now, the thing when you are going to be using the wire guards, you just need to be a little careful with stringing on your wire guards, because then, actually I need this like this. All right, because if you pull too hard through the wire, you can coil up your wire. I've done it. So I am just going to go very slowly. I'm going to put on my wire guard first, and I'm going to come down to the middle and offset it just a hair, because I will be making a loop with part of it on the other side. Okay, so now let's go ahead and pass this other side through. And again, just being very, 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 very careful. I got real rambunctious and just pulled it super quickly, and it coiled up on me, and then I couldn't use it. All right, so we're offset just a little bit, and that's okay. And the first thing I want to do is I am also going to attach this directly to my button. So let's go ahead. And I chose, you could attach it directly to your ring as well, but I think it'll be easier for me to, when I'm crimping, to do it directly to when I'm doing that, we're gonna have to, so we're gonna take these two, and then we're gonna bring one back. And I feel like it'll be easier to do it with the ring rather than the button. Okay, so there we go. Then what I wanna do is I'm gonna go ahead and add my crimp tube. And when I was just beginning out, I would add a third little strand in there just to help me, with figuring out how to use the crimper tool. Okay, I got this all, there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and bring that down. We don't want our wires crossed, so it's very similar to how you use your standard crimping tool, right? Then I do want my standard crimping tool. So I really don't, well, I mean, I usually don't like to, I don't like having that big gap in between. So I just come in with that very top notch. So the top notch is where it rounds off. And I'm just gonna come in with that top notch and just give it a little bit of a squeeze to bring it together a little bit. And it still moves around perfectly fine. And then that brings me in, so then I save a little bit of the wire. Okay, so now let's go. What I want to do is I want to make sure that my 2x2 crimp is in the center of my crimping tool. And then I want to give it a little bit of a squeeze. And then you get your 4 corners. Then you just tilt it on its side. And then again, you want to make sure you're centered, and then give it a squeeze. And then I just start turning it around. I'm probably way too close to the camera. And then you just start turning it around until you feel no more tension, and I can feel some tension still. And again, I'm doing this way away from my face. I usually have it up in my face, but that's what it ends up looking like. And so then you end up with a little bead-like finish. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to go ahead and, oh, before I get started, so sorry. So now what I want to do, now that I have the button kind of stabilized here, and I like how I'm not going to have a bead underneath my button. That's kind of why I chose a smaller button as well. But what I want to do is I want to make my component. This is where my closure is going to go. And I am going to use some of this here to create a closure. And I want to see how long this is, because then this will help me determine how long I need to make my bracelet. So I know it appears I'm kind of going a little backwards, and I kind of am, but I do want to see how long this component's going to be, so I don't make my bracelet too big. So what I'm gonna do is this is gonna be attached to the component here, and then I'm gonna leave just enough room in between. And I'm gonna do a barrel knot to get that all nice and tight. Then I'm gonna leave just enough room to insert the button for the closure, and then have a little bit of a tail. So we're gonna be doing some barrel knots. So let's see, how long is this? I'm gonna go, this is about 8 inches, and I'm gonna go a little bit more. I'm gonna go about 9 inches. It's more than what I need, but when doing your barrel knots, you need to have a little bit extra. So if I have my bottom side, which my bottom side is gonna be the length that I'm wanting, right? And then the top side is where I'm gonna be doing my, my wraps. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert here. Okay, and I don't need that big of an opening, but I do need to be able to grab onto it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I have my long piece on top and my shorter piece on bottom. Let me grab my barrel knot tube. Okay. And you get these tubes when you get kits from Kellie too, and she also sells them. But I'm just going to go around twice. So 1, 2. You see, normally we'll do 3, but I'm just going to go 2 because I don't want a lot of emphasis, or I don't want a lot of sight going onto the barrel knot tube, or the barrel knot. I want it to go more on the actual beads. And so I'm just now, I passed that through. We're going to do another one. I guess I really didn't show you how I did that. But now I'm just pulling this. I'm pulling and pushing and moving my fingers around. And when you look at this, you're like, oh, wait, it doesn't even, you're not even close. Well, you can still pull on this, on the tail end, you can pull on this to make it a little bit tighter. You don't want it too tight, but you also don't want it too loose. All right, so now what I want to do is flip this over because I want my, and again, I only did 2 wraps, and so it's not the most gorgeous of barrel knots, but it will work. Again, we're just going for a closure. I'm going to go 1, 2, and come back around. And I was moving towards this hand. And so now I'm going to go ahead and pass that through, and I'm holding on to my wrap. That's the key too. You got to hold on to that wrap right here, right here. Just keep on holding on, hold on to it. Don't let go of it because then it's going to unravel. And now I want to start tightening. You don't want these loops to become cross. You don't want them crossing. You want them to stay intact, okay? But then you also need to be able to fit your button through. And it's not just the width of the button. You have to think it's the width plus that shank. And that is absolutely perfect right there. So now I just hold it with my fingernail a little bit, and then I just start tugging and pulling, tugging and pulling. Okay, until I get that nice and secure. Then what you could do is you can grab, where's my GS Hypo? I just had it. You can grab some GS Hypo. Oh, here it is. You can grab some GS Hypo and then add it here at the knot and on this side. I don't want to add it now until I'm done. And then to get you want to kind of have your things a little bit, there you go. All right, so now you have this a little bit secured and you can fit your button through, and there you go. All right, so now when I'm doing this, I need to figure out how much this is. And this here, let's go ahead and do that. And this here is about, it's about 1.5 inches. So about 1.5 inches. So I want to make this about 5 inches, because then we're going to put like a little 1/4 inch maybe on the closure. So now what I want to do is I want to add my bead, okay, to one side, and then to both ends. And you can just bring these a little closer together. You still want them staggered so that you're only having to kind of push one through, and then you're going to push through your spacer. And then leaving a little bit of, leaving some room would be really cool too. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave a little bit of room in between. I don't want them so tight, but I am already loving this. So let's go ahead and get that. Get our spacer. Send our spacer through this strand as well, and bring it all down. That is pretty. And then with that, oh, I can't wait. Okay, so let's continue going. And I will continue going. on with putting in a bead, a spacer, and then bringing in that second strand for the spacer as well, bringing them down, leaving some room in between. And they don't have to be perfect because you can adjust it even after. Okay, so I am just going to keep on going, and I will come back when I make it to where I have about, what did I say, 5? Because this was about an inch. This is about 1.25 inches, and we're going to add 1/4. So yeah, I'm going to come back when there's about 5 inches of bracelet. Okay, so stick around. Okay, so this gave me exactly 5 inches. And so then what we're going to do is we are going to add that, add this to our component here. And again, yeah, I do have quite a bit left over. I could have gone maybe 3 inches smaller. So I did what, 20? Did I do 20? So maybe if you did 17, 16, 17, you'd be okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add my crimp tube. Wait, let me think. I'm going to add my crimp tube to both. Okay, so add my crimp tube to both. I had to think about it for a second. Okay. And again, when you're pulling on your crimp tube as well, be aware that you can kind of mess with that a little bit. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and thread on my wire guard. Oops. Then I'm going to go ahead and go back through my wire guard, right? And before I go through my wire again, I'm going to go ahead and go through my component here that I made up. Okay, then I'm going to pass that back through my crimp tube. And 3 will fit for the gold. The gold filled, you can fit 3 through. You can actually sometimes fit in 4. The copper, I think it's the copper you have to be kind of careful for. All right, so I want to make sure my fandy dandy, you know, high tech, yep, that's perfect, that high tech. So now what I want to do is I kind of want to keep my finger there, but I need to bring all of this down, right? So I'm going to keep my finger in place and just start bringing down my wire as it sits in this, in the wire guard. So I'm just going to pull it down and pull it down and pull it down. But I need to keep this at 5.5 inches. I thought I would be able to do it by doing that, but, or actually 5 inches, 5 inches. And I need to come down just a smidge. Okay, and so now let me just continue pulling and continue pulling. And now we get to a good place. All right, so I've got this here as well. So I'm going to flip this over so that I have that other tail out of the way. And I don't think I'm going to bring that closer together. I think I'm just going to go ahead and crimp from here, because this is a little wide and I don't want it to not have any movement. So now let's go ahead and take that crimp tube and go into the center of the well there and crimp down. And you got your 4 corners, turn on its side. There you go. Make sure you're in the center and then start crimping and then start turning. I call it going around the horn until you feel no tension. You can see that when I was crimping down, it was moving a little because there's still a little bit of tension and it's not done. Now it's not moving. So now that's all done. Okay, so now what I need to do is come in with my cutter tool, and let's go ahead and trim off that one tail back here. And this is good. Keep these extra pieces. I can very easily make up a pair of earrings, which I might just go ahead and do since we have extra. Go like this, go like this, come on. There we go. Keep on going like this. Go like that. And go like this. And I think we're going to make up a pair of earrings. Isn't that kind of cute? All right, so then I have another piece here. I'm going to go ahead and come in as close as I can without trimming off the other side. And here we have it. Oh, let's cut this all off. So what I do is I don't trim off the ends until after I've done my GS hypoing. But there you go. There you have it. Let's try and get this all. There we go. It's twisted. That's okay. All right, so then you can adjust around. If you have more space somewhere, just kind of move this around. I see I have more space up here, so now I'm just going to kind of just adjust. And as you wear it, it's going to adjust as well. But there you go. Perfect little bracelet using some of those incredible gemstones. And then we have enough to make a couple earrings, and we'll do that. Okay, so then we'll do that as a bonus at the, no, we'll go ahead and do it now. Then let's go ahead and, again, you can use this too if you don't want the wire to go all the way around like your neck, you can use these pieces here for like the frontal part of your necklace. All right, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So then I know that I want to have at least 8 because I might be making another one of them. Or I might make a matching necklace. So we're just going to use 3. Let's get the third one. And that's actually perfect because then I end up with an odd amount. I have 6, and so I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So oh no, that's not odd amount. Really? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Oh, we have 11. Okay, so now let's go ahead and grab a couple more of these. Okay. And the first one I want to do is I want to do this one here because I'm going to use, I'm going to show you how you can, we are going to go like this so that I have more room to show you because I'll just do one on camera. All right, and let's kind of offset it a little bit because one is going to go back through again. And there we go there. And I just want to make sure I'm going to have enough to do this one. And that's going to be too tight. So let's come down just a little bit, just a smidge. Okay, and then we'll be able to make this one comfortably. Oh yeah, we can make that one comfortably. Okay, so we're going to come down around that much, okay? Then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and bring this back one of the ends, typically your longer end, because I offset it. And let's go ahead and get that passed through. And then if you want your loop to be the same on both sides as far as your loop up here, you can, we'll just take our barrel knot tube, right? And then go ahead and hold that in place and just bring it down to your barrel knot. I don't want to make it bigger, but there you go, see? So now we have that, and then we know we can use that for our next one. We're gonna go ahead and put that crimp tube right there in the middle, and then give it a little squeeze, and we have our 4 corners pinched, and then we're gonna go ahead and turn it on its side. Make sure you're in the middle there, and then just start going around, and going around. And now we have a pair of earrings. Well, we have one. I will make the other one. All right, so now this one, is it coming out this side? Yep. So now what I want to do is I want to come in and get as close as I can to that crimp tube, which is now a bead. And then let's go ahead and come through on this side And there we go. We have a cute little earring. And then I'll go ahead and make the other one off camera and come right back. Okay, so I went from having several inches of waist to only having a few pieces. And these pieces are really good, like I said, for when you have, when you want to thicken up that, when you're just starting out, when you're wanting to thicken up the area that you're crimping, because it is easier, for me, it's easier too, to crimp with the 3 in it. But there we go. We have a beautiful pair of earrings that will go wonderfully with that bracelet. And then I'm going to make up a necklace here off camera and with the rest and have a set. Isn't that kind of cool? Okay, so let's go ahead and get these moved on. All right, so now let's go ahead and we are going to work with these guys here. And again, these guys have a large hole. We are going to keep our barrel knot tube. All right, so now we have this here. And like I said, this is, I think, 1.5 inches. I mean, 1.5 millimeters. Okay, so that's perfect. So I need to try and keep one out as my clasp. So I want to have my clasp. Again, I'm not sure how much I'm going to need because I'm going to do 1 barrel knot up here for this to go through when we're done. And then, yeah, so this is a design very similar to a design that actually maybe be exactly, but Kellie from Kellie's Bead Boutique did a barrel knot bracelet using a bead as the clasp and using barrel knots in between. So I am not going to take credit for this. This is all Kellie, even if I shy away a little bit from how she did it exactly. She's who I'm getting my idea from, is from her. So we might use up every single one of these guys. All right, so let's get started. So I started this and did not hit record. So what I did here was and I'll show you what I did here at the very end with some other leather, but I just finished this off and went to go hit stop, and guess what? I'd already hit stop. And you know what? I made another bracelet and I don't even know if it made it onto a recording or not. So we'll find out. If not, you're just going to see the finished. So, and I'll just tell you what I did. But what I'm doing here is I'm making some barrel knots. We're using barrel knot tube. This is a bracelet, if not the exact same, except with the exception of maybe the beads and the bead size. This is almost identical to a bracelet that I saw from Kellie Sutton at Kellie's Bead Boutique. So she's going to get total and complete credit for the design of this. I am using some 1.5 millimeter leather, and I got this from a company just outside, just on, I mean, I can throw a rock. She's probably about 15 miles away. And so I try to support the local businesses as well. And so I got some of this gorgeous copper leather, it's like metallic leather cord from her. And so that's what I'm going to use. So when I first started out, I had 2 strands, but now I'm only working with 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this off so it's not in the way anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and add my GS Hypo Cement on this. And I am just adding it where the where it all connects, right? Where the knot kind of all comes together. Because I don't want it to come out. All right. And if you need more, just add more. Once it dries and you think, oh man, I'm just really not sure, you can always add more. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a barrel knot in between, and we're going to do 3 wraps. I do a little bit better with 3 wrap than 2, or because the other one, the one that I did on the other bracelet, I'm not happy about, but that's fine. So we're going to go ahead, and since we only have 1 strand, I am just going to keep it at the top because that's what my habit is. And so I'm going to wrap around 3 times, going towards that way, going towards here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my end through the tube there. Now hold on to all of that, okay? Holding on to all of that. I'm going to bring this down fairly close to the end right there. You can see a little bit. Now, this is very far away. So I need to scooch this over. And so how I do that is I kind of like help that first loop and then the others just kind of follow. And I don't want this to be super tight because I want movement, right? So I'm just going to stick my finger right in there, my fingernail, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a pull. Now I'm not pulling all in one swoop because here is what can happen. And then I'm just kind of helping. I don't want those loops to cross. Here's what can happen is you can actually rip that. It will tear off. I've done it. I've done it before. All right, so there we go. And again, I want some movement. And different from when we could adjust the single loop with just by pulling in the tail. With these, you can't. So you just have to know where to go. And again, I don't want it to be so tight because I want it to be able to go on the person's wrist and it move. Okay, so let's go ahead and push this down. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and come in. I'm gonna put that up at the top, just like so, and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3 times around towards this hand. And then I'm gonna come in with that same hand and do that, pull this, and bring this in, and then I need to get that scooched over closer to my bead without crossing the knot. Don't want any of those loops crossing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get pulling. Then I want my finger to go in between so that it doesn't get so tight. Okay. All right. And again, this isn't the end, so you're okay if your knot is a little loose, because as you keep on going, you're tightening up the next little segment anyways. So go ahead and come down here, just like so. Let's go ahead and do this, add our barrel knot, our barrel tube. And you get these tubes when you get kits from her that have the barrel knot within the design of the kit, and you get them. Do you want to know how many barrel knot tubes I have? I have so many. I have so many that she brought it up in one of her demonstrations or one of her lives. I think it was one of her lives about how many barrel knot tubes I have. You can also get them from her site as well. And I do. I have so many that I sent some to Neelay Patel from Silver Silk and More. I think I sent one to Wendy Whitman. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to continue on until I have enough to go around. And so I will come back. I apologize that I didn't hit record when I was doing this, but I'll start another one and show you how I do that. All right, so stick around. So we are down to the end. We are down to where we have just the one to put on, and that's going to be for our clasp to attach to for our bracelet. And it doesn't take very long to do this. I would just also encourage, when you're doing your barrel knots, just take your time. There's no need to rush through your barrel knots. Speed does not equate to gorgeousness. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this final clasp, and I think I'm going to come off just a little bit. So I'm not going to make it as tight because we need to be able to have it sit inside that other loop. So I'm going to go ahead and come in, and I'm going to do my 3 wraps around, just like so, working towards that way. Then I'm going to go ahead, and I have tons of leather left over. Here's the deal. I don't like waste, but when I have this much left over, I feel like it's enough for an entire project or two, depending on what you're doing. Now, I did not end up with any beads left over, so I'm not going to be able to make a bracelet a pair of earrings or anything with it, but I want a little bit of movement for this one. So I am just going to scooch it just a little bit in, just so that I have some room for that other piece of leather to sit in between the bead and the leather there. So let's just scooch this. And now this one I do want to be very tight because this is how it's going to be held on. So I am just pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. Let's bring out our GS Hypo. Have your little paper towel off to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and come in, and where all of this connects, try and get that little inside there a little bit. Come around this way. It dries clear, so you're never going to see it. And then come around this side and do the same thing. Keep your bead away from it. I'm holding on to the bead back here. Keep your bead away from it and just kind of get in there. Get after it. All right. Okay. So now I have that and it's going to sit. I'm going to go ahead and clean this off and then put the little thing back on. I've had way too much caffeine today, so my hands are so jittery. There we go. All right. Then what you could do is you could go ahead and come in and you can finish that off however you want, just like that. Okay. And then all you do is just pass it through just like so. And again, there's a little bit of room in between there. And there is your bracelet. As promised, I'm going to show you how I started it out. So what I did was I did demonstrate how I held the bead up next to the loop here, just to kind of get an idea of how big I needed to make my loop. So I just kind of put the bead over it, and I knew that it was about right there. And I have this long piece because this is the piece that I'm going to use to be making my bracelet. This doesn't need to be very long at all because you're just using that for some stability. So you can have it just be a few inches off if you want. Again, you don't have to have this very long. Also too, if you get it all tight and your loop there is a little too large, you could take that tail and pull it and make it a little bit smaller. So I'll go ahead and do that. So we're going to take the barrel knot tube and we're going to put it in between the two pieces of leather, just like so. We have the top one has the long end, the bottom one has the short end. Okay, and you're going to go ahead and hold this. And when you're wrapping towards your left hand. If you're holding this with your left hand, if you're holding it with your right hand and using your left, you're always gonna go towards your stable hand. You're not gonna go, you're not gonna go towards your working hand. So you're not gonna come this way. You're gonna go that way towards your loop. Then you're gonna take the end of your leather while you're holding on. I'm holding on to everything right here. Okay, this is the bottom. This was the top. Okay, and you're holding on to that. Okay, so then you're going to go ahead and bring your tube back through. Okay, so now you have this long working end. Okay, and you're just pulling. I'm holding on to my loops, right? Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to scooch this over because that is way too large. So as you can see, I'm not doing any pulling yet. And I'm just scooching my knot. Okay, I'm going to keep on coming over. That's still a little bit large, but that's okay because I can always tighten it up with this other end, with this end here. Okay, so I'm going to pinch down and I'm going to hold with the loop, have my fingernail there up against the knots or the loops right here. And I'm just going to push them together, pull, and as you can see, this one here, this very first one, is wanting to tighten up before these are. So that's why I'm just kind of pushing and massaging around, because now you can see that they're all about the same size. And then I just continue doing that same thing, and I'm pushing with my fingernail here and pulling, and you can pull it too tight. You can snap your leather If you're working with a very thin leather, then you can make it snap. There's your barrel knot. Okay, so then what you can do is, this here is just a little too big still. You can grab this smaller end and watch. And you can just pull it smaller. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your GS Hypo cement and take that little needle and put it down in here where the knot starts. And I always try to like kind of stab it inside so that I can get it a little inside the knot. I come over here on this side and I stab it in there too. And that's how you start. Be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up if you like it. I know that I'm gonna go back and I hope that I recorded this and this. I hope I did. But if not, I'll come back and I'll share with you how I made this using the soft flex wire and how I made these extra earrings to go along with them. Then also too, this bracelet here with the thanks of Kellie Sutton's creativity. This is where I got the idea from, and using the barrel knots, using some 1.5 millimeter metallic leather cord that I got from a local vendor here. And I think if you're just now starting out with barrel knots, for me, the 1.5 millimeter was the easiest. I think the 1.5 millimeter was what I tried to use the most of, with the exception if Kellie had some kits. But I think the 1.5 millimeter for me was the best. It was easiest, and you can tell because my loops, my barrel knots for these are not so good, and these are a little bit better. Plus, I'm using 3 loops rather than 2. Who knows? I might go back and change this up a little bit and make it 3 loops. Or 3 wraps. Also, too, please comment. I love to see what everybody has to say, and subscribe. And also, do not forget about Bella 10 and Adornable Elements. I'll put links in the description. Go grab your subscription box from them. And until next time, have a good one.